With The Walking Dead coming to an end, its spin-off series is now getting a little time in the limelight. Recently, something's been happening with the writers of Fear the Walking Dead, the first spin-off series from The Walking Dead. So stay tuned for today's video as we're going to discuss, have Fear the Walking Dead writers lost their minds? First up, have Fear the Walking Dead writers lost their mind? Over the years, Fear the Walking Dead has changed a whole lot. From being a spin-off series of the original to taking on some of The Walking Dead's characters. Now that the series has found its own niche within The Walking Dead and its world, fans are really wondering what's happening next. As well with this, the main Walking Dead series is actually coming to an end. So Fear has everyone's eyes on it as it needs to be a good show in order to hold off those waiting for future spin-offs. Sadly, it looks like the writers aren't doing exactly a great job at keeping the audience wanting to watch more. The Walking Dead itself hasn't been the best television show for the past few years. Ever since Rick Grimes departed from the show, since its departure, more and more characters have left, and the show feels like it's just bare bones. Fear doesn't have this problem. Its cast is huge and it takes place throughout different parts of the world. Sadly, Fear has its own problems with its writers because things don't seem to be going well with them. Recently, a character was about to be killed off. Charlie is a young character on the show and he's been on for a few years now. She's leaving the show and she's about to be killed off in another episode. Fear's been doing this anthology type thing for a while now, where they focus on one character instead of an entire cast. To make sure that Charlie's death felt right, an entire episode was dedicated to her. I mean, what's not to love, right? I mean, something clearly went wrong in the writer's room. Charlie is a 13-year-old girl in the series, which means that life has still got a lot to offer to her. Rather than give her a cool send-off, the writers decided to create a rushed love story so Charlie could have a kiss before she died. This episode made no sense, and it was very cringe-worthy. She fell in love with a boy out of nowhere, and they had some dating scenes. To make it all worse, they focused on butterflies, and it was just terrible. The entire episode was just pointless, and it only served for Charlie to have a send-off before she eventually dies. This episode wasn't worth watching, and it just showcased how poor the writers are sometimes. It was terrible. So let us know what you thought about this episode down in the comment section below, and how you're feeling about The Walking Dead right now. And on to some other television news. Next up, Bridgerton Season 2 finale recap. What happened? The biggest thing that happened at the end of the Season 2 was Kate being knocked off of her horse in a rainstorm. Fans were going crazy when this moment happened, and they had a lot of questions. So this is what happened. Anthony was already chasing after her and managed to come to her rescue and made sure that she received some sort of medical attention. This took place at Lady Danbury's house, and Kate was left with a cut on her head. Anthony put pressure on the wound, and Kate was in and out of consciousness. This event really put pressure onto Anthony and was a trigger for the issues that he was already going through. He was dealing with the trauma of his father's death, and he went on to blame himself for Kate's accident. The main reason that Kate left on her horse in the first place was because she slept with Anthony the night before, and she was feeling guilty. She left the house and took the horse for a ride, which, as we know, led to her injuries. Kate later woke up a few weeks later and was told that Anthony never returned to visit her, and she felt awful. The news of Kate's regained consciousness made its way to the Bridgerton residence, and Lady Violet delivered the positive update to her oldest child, who, in turn, cried uncharacteristic tears of relief and joy. Anthony told his mother that he hadn't visited Kate because he was afraid she might die, and he couldn't fathom losing her. This was when Lady Violet apologized to Anthony that he had been the one to see his father tragically die from a bee sting. But, she added, as painful as that experience had been, and as much as she missed him, given the choice, she would still choose her late husband Edmund every time, because true love is worth every high and every low. Anthony realized his love for Kate, and he took his ring and went to propose to her. Now things got a little crazy after this point. Kate said no and admitted the only person she'd been lying to was herself. She added that by the time she realized how strong her feelings were for Anthony, it was too late. Despite her best efforts to deny said feelings, Edwina believed her but stated that Kate's accident made her realize she didn't really know her sister or herself because they'd been pretending to be women. They were not for the sake of society. A lot more happened after that, but at the end of the day, Anthony and Kate realized their love for one another, and they went off on a honeymoon once they were married. It was a crazy ride, but things went well in the end. And now, Stranger Things. Is Billy really dead, and is he coming back? One of the biggest things to happen at the end of the last season of Stranger Things was the death of Billy during the final battle. He sacrificed himself for Max and the crew, and it left a hole in the characters and fans alike. This season seems to be dealing with the death of Billy, as Max is seen in the trailer mourning over his grave, and she begins to float. She seems to have some kind of connection to the Upside Down this season, and it's going to be really cool to find out what happens next. In terms of Billy, fans have pointed out something about the new villain of the season. Season 4 is getting a new big bad, and this time it's Vecna. He's named after a final boss in Dungeons & Dragons, and he serves as the main bad guy for this new season. He's surprisingly humanoid in appearance, which is something new for the Upside Down and its creatures. Even though the Demogorgons were less alien-like than the other monsters from Stranger Things, they weren't as humanoid as Vecna. Many are now believing that Billy was turned into Vecna and serves as his body so that he can manifest himself to the crew this season. This would explain his connection with Max and his human appearance. Now, this could also mean that Billy isn't entirely dead, and he could come back during the season. But we're gonna have to wait and find out, of course. But, I mean, it's looking like a really cool season is in the making, so, I mean, that's cool. Let us know down in the comment section below what you think of this theory, and how you feel about Billy potentially coming back. Finally, Legends of Tomorrow and Batwoman canceled at the CW. And for the final topic of our video today, it's not necessarily a nice one. Recently, the CW announced a few shows that would be renewed ahead of the current seasons of their shows ending. Among those were The Flash and Superman and Lois. However, Legends of Tomorrow and Batwoman were nowhere to be seen. Months later, we finally got an announcement on what would be happening to these two shows, and surprise, surprise, it's not good news. After 3 seasons, Batwoman was announced to be canceled. It's the first show from the Arrowverse to ever be canceled, and it's sad. Though the show wasn't amazing, it was getting better, and people started to like it again. Then, just a few hours later, Legends of Tomorrow was canceled. Now, this one surprised everybody, as this show has consistently been amazing for years now. The viewership wasn't even that low. Even Riverdale was lower than it was this quarter, and that was renewed for another season. Legends fits a niche that no other show fits into at this point, and it's very sad to see it go. Legends deserves a final season, or at least an ending, a proper one of some kind. It's surprising that these shows don't even get to end, and they're just done after these seasons. What do you guys think about all this? Let us know in the comment section below, and that's the end of today's video.